here we are. We're on Shoe Geeks, the October edition. We've just been waiting for our man in Sydney, the most sought-after podiatrist on the eastern seaboard, Tom DeCanto. Thank you for joining us. We are so privileged to have you here.
I'll stop it. How are you?
And Michael Nishke, he has people working for him, so he's never flustered. He's at
Tom's
what is
got
it?
someone working for him, doesn't he? You got someone working for you, Tom, now?
Yeah. Laura.
Oh, you did. Oh, you hired someone. That explains all the holidays. All right, boys. We are on a shortened schedule because Tom is so busy. So we have to get into things really quickly. I want to know. I want a quick rundown from you. Instead of training weeks, we go through shoe cycles. Now, we're going to get straight to the good stuff. Nitta, I know you've been trying out a ton of different shoes. And also, Tom, yesterday got some shoes. Don't know if you're allowed to talk about these or not. That's one thing that is a problem when you get shoes early. But Nitta, you go ahead. We'll ask for forgiveness later, perhaps.
Look, I'll start with the shoe that I think you both have as well. I reckon you briefed on it a little bit last time, but you haven't actually talked about it much, was the New Balance 1080, the V14. So the V13 came out last year and probably was the softest shoe I'd put my foot in, I reckon. And look, felt great for me, fit upper-wise, but after half an hour, I found I couldn't wear it too much. So I think the big difference is with their big neutral volume trainer now, it's probably slightly a couple points higher density now, Moose. Would that be right?
Probably 5 points higher, 35 to 40.
Yep. Look, but still has very similar feels to V13, but just feels a little bit stiffer, and it feels a little bit harder under the heel and the forefoot a little bit. But it's still, once again, one of those recovery day shoes. It's really in the absorbed category. It is really compliant foam with probably, out of all the really high volume shoes, it's probably one of the least resilient foams, I reckon. Like, it doesn't give a lot back to you. So this shoe's become like a real recovery day shoe, post workout the day after, 30 to 45 minutes. Some really good aspect. The upper of this shoe to me feels as good as any upper I've put on in my time. The V13 felt that good as well. The heel counter is probably a little bit nicer. I know, Tom, you said you had issues with the V13 heel counter. This V14 heel counter I haven't had an issue with. I've still, once again, put a bit of a heel pitch in there because it's such a compliant foam. This small 6 mil heel gradient, I think it's running off, is it a 39-33, Julian, or is it a 40-34? It's very high up at the rear. But because it's so soft in the back of the shoe, for example, like if you hit the heel, it's like a negative heel pitch because it's just so compliant. So easy day trainer, really wide surface area, still keeps it relatively stable, and as does the increase of 5 points of density in the foam, makes it a bit more stable than the previous version. So have you guys gone with the V14 for the 1080?
Tommy, you go.
I liked it. So I didn't actually have the V13. I haven't had a 1080 since maybe V10, to be honest. It's been a long time since I've been in 1080.
Big change.
I enjoyed it more than what I remember. Even back then, V10, it felt for me, it was one of those real absorbed really well, but it didn't give anything back. I probably made the mistake of trying to use that one because it was so cushioned for some long runs, where I do like to have the pace a little bit faster, where it felt like it was giving nothing back.
Definitely not a long one.
Thinking about it too, like it has a really good spot in the rotation for the days where you don't want to get caught up in running faster, and you want the shoe to help facilitate the easy day. So I think this and the Nimbus for me, that the Nimbus 25 was similar, maybe the 26 as well. So just a real sort of soft plush shoe, but it doesn't really give much back. So you don't want to run fast in it.
No, you don't. It's like, remember the Invincible? The Invincible was similar as well. It was a great easy day shoe. This shoe's like, it's just got a nice plush upper and feel. It's just really comfortable. You put your foot in. It's so just like you said, it just feels a bit enduring as you go a bit longer, and that's about it. So, but thanks to Dan for sending those ones out. I use this shoe at least 2 times a week. The ultimate warm-up cool-down shoe, just on the fact that it absorbs so well that when I put my, if I put a super shoe on after, it feels like super responsive because the change of foam. So, yeah.
When you say absorb more, what are you referring to?
I mean that the foam feels like I'm staying on the ground for a long period of time. Like the foam really compresses over a long period of time. It almost leaves me on the ground for a longer period of time. Like my ground.
And why do you want that?
Look, if I'm feeling like I want to run faster and I want to have less contact time, I pick a shoe that's got more resilient foam. So I hit it, hits me back. It's like, it's like a flat basketball, like you bounce it on the ground, it comes up at like a slower rate, not as high. Look, I just pick it for a day where I don't want to feel the ground. I don't want to feel the trauma. I've got like maybe the purpose is like to mitigate some muscle soreness or mitigate some muscle, I guess, trauma that I had from the previous day, perhaps.
Okay. Is that what you think too, Tom? Do you agree with that?
Yeah, we agree too much probably, but yeah, basically, it's just it's soft, but it doesn't rebound at the same rate as other foams. So if any podiatrists are listening, like the analogy would be like this functions like Poron versus like an EVA.
Yeah.
So it's just like real soft, but doesn't really give much back. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, it's a narrower fit. That's probably one thing we've found in store is that it's got quite a whitish kind of vamp. If you look at the shoe, Nitta, can you just hold it up? I don't have it in front of me.
Yeah.
So just show it from the top down. Yours will be cinched to all buggery. Yep. And so that wide, it creates less mesh or less like walls of upper for the side of the foot to sort of like the volume around the side of the foot. So it does seem to be pretty snug.
It's also not very deep at the rear. Like it's a 6 mil heel pitch being put into the shoe, even a 4 mil heel pitch feels like it's almost sliding a little bit. Like I think it's lost a little bit of depth at the rear. But
yeah, it's been a good change. We're doing better with it already in store. Like I wore it for a few runs already, and I liked the feel compared to the V13, which I don't think I got past a couple of runs in that shoe. So more sustainable, safer, more durable. Yeah.
On the other hand, the other shoe that I'm wearing more for days that are a bit poppier, you get a lot of these coming out through. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to show this yet, but I'm not sure when this podcast is coming out either, Julian. So I'm just going to show it. This is
we can hold this off until it releases on the 3rd of December.
3rd of December. What's it now? It's October.
So we can't actually. Why don't you just call it the 5th version? Just call it the 5th version of a shoe and talk about it.
It's all over Insta, mate.
It's everywhere on Instagram. Yeah.
All right. Well, I mean, you already got the slap on the wrist, so you go for it. Go for it. I'm happy with it. I'm not part of this.
Look,
you're the
the 5th version of a what you call the mid to high tier range from Asics. It's the Nova Blast 5. It is everywhere on Instagram. I'm not sure if the colorway is. The biggest change in this shoe has been absolutely the foam. They've used a midsole material called 4-foot Blast Max.
Flight foam.
The Flight Foam Blast Max, the FF Blast, and it's 41 mils at the rear foot. I think 34 or 35 in the forefoot, so it's pretty high stack. It is still a very, very soft foam, like V4 was. The difference is it's a lot more resilient, so it's slightly stiffer. It's probably almost a little bit more up tempo, but the biggest change, and Tom would like this, it's dropped from about 260 grams back down to 220 odd grams for about a size 9. So it has dropped close to 10-15% mass. And look, the foam, I reckon the V4, it was still a really good shoe. I didn't get as much durability out of it. After 200, 300 Ks, I felt I was done with the forefoot. This feels a lot more resilient. I don't know if I'll get more out of it. The outsole, you can see through here, they've created this, I think they refer to it as like a bit of a trampoline format. They've got these little concavities through here. This sort of is you can see that it becomes prominent. The middle of the shoe, you've got almost this sort of convexity of the foam coming out. So this here sort of tries to act like a bit of a trampoline effect. It's a little bit stiffer than V4, and the upper is nice and plush. It's probably upper wise, Julian, you're more you're a bit more sort of you're more like how you pick an upper compared to I don't mind it. I've got a bit of a narrow forefoot. I think it's a little bit like narrower than maybe the V4, but I think it might be the material. But in saying that, the upper is still pretty. It's a more of an engineered mesh that's a bit firmer. The other one was more knitted off memory. So Yeah.
The current one is pretty nice upper. Like it's hard to beat that upper, and it fits a narrow foot really well. That one looks like it's a bit stiffer, the material.
It is, but I think it's got enough volume in it. I think that's how they've also dropped the weight a little bit, to be honest. They've removed the knit and they've used this sort of stiffer-based engineered mesh, and very, very nice shoe. A bit polarizing compared to the 1080 in the fact that this shoe feels a bit better as you hit it a bit harder. It gives back pretty nicely. I know you've taken it for a couple of runs already, Tom.
Yeah, I've loved it. I've just enjoyed the history of the Nova Blast, like from the very first one, and so I was really excited to try this one. Yeah, it's, as I was saying to you guys before, it kind of feels like it's kind of shifted through its iterations, and this one's gone back, I think, from version 4 now to 5 is a little bit more of a you could take it more up tempo. So the 4 I felt like went a bit more of a cruiser, like hybrid from the V3, and this is now more towards like the V3 where it's lighter, more responsive. Yeah, so people could use it for like that do-it-all shoe. I'll use it as a long run shoe, I reckon. Because I do like to get my long runs moving along a bit, so it's going to be. I'm going to enjoy
just
this
off
one.
the air before this shoe will take a little bit away from the Super Blast. I reckon you'll get a few more sales in that category. This shoe goes a bit longer than previous, whereas historically, I reckon the Super Blast was the shoe you put on for a longer duration, so you never would consider the Nova. Maybe the first few Novas definitely. Like I know you would have wore the first Nova for a couple of long runs. That was a great shoe for that at the time because it was like revolutionary in terms of that compliant midsole that gave back. The third version was much lighter than the second version. Second version definitely was the worst Nova Blast. There's no doubt about that. But the third one was like, almost a lightweight trainer, a little bit hollow in the midsole, but geez, it was like quite nippy. And then the fourth version, they added the midsole back in, but like you said, it felt like it was just an easier day shoe. You couldn't run as fast. And this has kept the weight almost of V3, but with a midsole that's really quite resilient. So it's a long run shoe now for sure.
Yeah, I would call it probably the best Nova Blast so far, based off the initial runs. We have to see what it's like as it wears, but I think it's a really good update. I like the upper as well. The upper's nice.
Yep, yeah, it's really good. Yeah, this will sell really easy, I think so.
Yep, good. What else you got?
And the final one is the fourth version of the Trabuco Max, just because I live around the trails. This is without a doubt. You guys had the Trabuco Max. Yeah, you were complaining about the toe box, weren't you, Julie, in the second or third versions?
Yeah.
They fixed that up. It's a lot softer in the toe box now, that's for sure. Still got the rubber piece. It's the most stable shoe I've put on since one of the original Stinsons, I reckon, Julian. Like, you sit around about maybe half a mil down, but all the way through. This is all sidewall, but look at the back or the rear foot of this shoe. It is a beast. It has a wide surface area. You could argue the second and third iterations were a little bit narrow in the midfoot, but it's high stack. And the rocker's a lot more gradual, so it's a lot more of a proximal rocker. Whereas the V2 and V3 had a large degree of toe spring at the end. I think we saw a couple of ankle sprains. I saw a couple in the clinic that were quite dramatic in the third version. And look, that's just the nature of having a high stack shoe on the trails. But they have cleaned it up by this shoe being really wide surface area through the whole foot. It does feel quite firm. I feel like I'd enjoy this shoe if I was 5 kilos heavier initially. But look, when you're on the trails, it grips well. The outsole, I reckon the Asics grip, I said this last time when I was over in Scotland, that it's one of the most underrated grips going around. It is really, really nice. But sitting within the sidewall, the upper is the knitted upper. It's a beautiful upper. I have no issues with the toe box. This is a really friendly, stable shoe for a trail runner. I think it's going to do really, really well. So it is the best Trabuco Max they've made so far, just in terms of like its purpose for trail running for sure. So stiff, good for big toe and midfoot arthritis as well. So it's it's going to tick a lot of boxes. Probably the only, and it's not heavy either. I actually haven't put this one on the scales, but it'll be about 270 to 280 for all the stuff on the base of the shoe. Maybe 290 for a size 10.5. But
I don't know about that. I reckon you got the scales handy.
Yeah, I will. You guys take it on. I'll go get the scales. I'll put it on. All right.
It's a bit of a tank.
That sure reminds me. Do you remember, Julian, when you showed us? This is like ages ago now. When Brooks brought out the Caldera.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Like big side walls, a big kinky booty. Remember that one?
That I did, and those sidewalls killed people because they were a little bit too strong. And then the toe box was super narrow and shallow and hard. This actually reminds me a lot of the Ultra Olympus, like a real tank for the trail. I don't know how this bloke can like the Nova Blast so much and then like this as well. I think he's just talking about all these free shoes, like so he gets more of them because they are like polar opposites.
He wants to
That
love them.
yeah, I mean, that looks like a nice dog walking shoe for me. I would take that.
Yeah, you're right. 329.
Yeah, carry on from you. 260. Have a listen to him.
This is at 255 for a size 10.5.
Oh, also carry on.
Yeah, no, I said size 9 was 225. Isn't that right?
220. Jeez, it's like you're getting underhand payments from ASICs or something here.
Hey, reading on a website.
Oh, Tom, I want some more honest feedback on this next one from you here. What do you got for us today?
The issue is I've been butted up by Adidas lately, so I've been getting some shoes from the guys there.
Didn't we do Adidas last time? Didn't we do them already?
Did we? Did we talk about the Did we talk? No, we didn't. Did we? Adistar 3?
Yeah, we did.
Oh, we've done all that. Oh, okay.
We've done all that.
All right.
Yeah.
Let me talk about.
You guys need betting before you go on in the future. You got to just clear interest.
The Adistar 3 is a competitor to the Nova Blast. It sits in the same category. So
what does? Yeah. It's like Adidas's version of the Nova Blast, I reckon. Yeah, it's enjoyed that one. You were going to talk about this, Nitta. Do you want me to whip it out? This guy?
Yeah, whip it out. So I know you haven't wanted as much time yet. This is the Rebellion Pro 3 from Mizuno. It's Julian received it before for me. I briefly saw his Strava description before he mentioned the actual name of the shoe, and I don't think he had the greatest experience straight up. This is different to you remember the V2 and the V1 were quite like a polarizing change in terms of its shoe. The major differences in this shoe through here, the foam has become a lot softer. It's more compliant, especially, Tom, can you squash that foam for me? Just where the highest point of the midsole is, it's really, really soft. It's the only shoe I put on, like we talk about like having a heel pitch, for example. Obviously, there's a huge negative rocker in this shoe, but there's like a midfoot pitch in this shoe where it's so dramatic that even if you point your toes and you completely plantar fix your foot entering into the ground, you still can't hit the forefoot without hitting the midfoot. You hit the whole shoe as a unit. So I found this shoe to be I couldn't find the sweet spot I did like a tempo out there for about maybe 4 by 5 minutes or 5 by 5 minutes. And like I was trying to solve the puzzle as soon as the rep started again of how to use this shoe when I was running in it. Like I just couldn't find the sweet spot. The second or third time, I reckon I found a bit of a sweet spot and just accepted that like I'd hit the midfoot, forefoot together. For me, it offloads the calves really well because like someone who hits the forefoot who's forced to hit the midfoot does deload me a bit. The foam is probably more enjoyable. It's softer, but consequently that small little surface area on the base of that midfoot makes it really unstable because it's so soft. Can you show the concavities on the midsole a bit, Tom? Like just like where the really soft point is. Even on the out, you can see the on the side, basically where the side of the side of the shoe. So show us the midsole. Yeah, you see that massive concavity in there. That midsole compresses, and the base. I think the lower part of the foam is almost the same density as the upper part where that plate sits. I think they might be a couple points apart in terms of how they separate the foam, and it's just too unstable. Like if you hit medially, it goes medial. If you hit lateral, you go lateral. Like it just goes to the path of least resistance. I didn't have too many problems with the V2. I'm not sure what you guys were like. I could hit the spot and it would feel still semi-stable. But this shoe, like if you hit back on that shoe, I don't know.
It is so unique.
Yeah, it's unique. I just can't. It doesn't feel right for me personally.
Did you say the name of the shoe, or did we just roll into
Rebellion? Yeah, Rebellion Pro 3.
Yeah, you did. Yeah,
from Mizuno. Yeah. So it hasn't quite worked for me as a shoe that a V2. I still use V2. I really enjoy it. But V3 seems to just feel a little bit too soft at the rear. And look, maybe not soft enough in the forefoot, if that makes sense. Like it feels like the density of the shoe just gets a bit firmer as it goes further forward because the rear foot is so soft. So Yeah. How have you gone with it, Julian? Because you took it out a couple of times as well, I think. So.
Once, and I find it unusable actually. Like this is one of the only shoes that I can't like functionally use. I did a workout and the first rep, I was so awkward in the shoe. I was so uncoordinated, out of rhythm. I didn't know what to do when my foot hit the ground. Like I generally try to land more on my midfoot. And a lot of the shoes facilitate that well by having a lot of cushion under that area and a broader forefoot platform. But this one encouraged me to land through the heel. And when I land through my heel, I have an ankle impingement that does not like a lot of kind of excursion through the through the joint. And my ankles were killing me. The like you said, the rear foot is too unstable. I was getting like an enormous amount of inversion when I first landed. And then by the time I sort of got onto the forefoot, like you, I didn't feel like there was anything there for me to really push off the ball of my foot.
It's not a graded rocker. And look, so Tom, if you could show it one more time, it's quite flat from the midfoot to the forefoot. It's not graded very well. So you're relying on the foam's compression as you transition forward to create the graded rocker. Because it's so soft at the rear foot or even the midfoot, it compresses and then your forefoot's higher relative to your forefoot. You got to get back over the foam. Then the foam's denser in the forefoot, so it doesn't quite transition quite right. I've never had a super shoe. I've never had a super shoe that I feel unstable in. That includes like the Meta Speed Edge in Paris, which have a narrow rear foot because I hit too far forward it. But this shoe forces you to hit the midfoot. It is a small surface area. It's got a massive moment arm because it's so high off the ground. It's the only shoe that I've actually really struggled with stability in, and I've never had a shoe had issues with stability in. So I don't know.
Have you measured the stack height in your?
You're sitting in a bit of a
It's wild. So because when people look at this, they think, oh, there's got to be a big. They got to think there's got to be a big sidewall, but that's literally the midsole is there, like it's maybe a millimeter or two of sidewall.
Yeah, it's about a millimeter.
I measured
56.
I measured it like here, 68 millimeters. So if you got 68 millimeters on a relatively narrow base, with a softer foam, I reckon it'll work like magic for about 5% of the population,
less.
And then
who
is
that?
Probably going to be
who is that population? Who I want to know who that population is.
It's got to be a very specific type of event, a specific type of runner at a particular pace, and it could work magic. But that's the issue with it. It's such a niche product.
So the brand is actually remedying this a little bit by bringing out a different model, and it will kind of be like, I think they're going to call it the Mizuno Rebellion Pro Low or something like that. And it's like it just doesn't have the rocker like that one. It uses the same foam, and it's going to be a lot more accessible for people. But this one here,
I'm saying that it looks really good.
Yeah, it looks a lot better.
It definitely wins the award as the most unique racing flat on the market for sure.
Oh, yeah, I mean, they really took a punt on it. I feel like they've actually they've just gone too obscure, and it is quite a high price. It's not like a novelty where you can just have a crack at it. It's like pretty expensive. So yeah, I love the 2. I thought the 2 was actually really good. It was a competitor for me, like picking a shoe to race in even. And this is an example of a brand going softer, not for the betterment of the shoe.
Agreed. Yeah.
What else you got, Tom? You've been butted up by all the brands. You still waiting on your shoes, Nitta?
Nah, I'm all done. I really want to hear about one of the performance shoes you've had recently, Tom.
No, I'm saying you got the shoes that Tommy organised for you yet?
I've got no Nikes, mate. I don't. There's no way that Tom looks after us.
Oh, come on.
All these Adidas shoes that you've got.
I have tried. I have. I have. Okay, so I'll whip through it because I know we haven't got much time, but basically, I've been hanging out for this bad boy. So the Pegasus Plus. I didn't didn't love the Pegasus, so I thought a full ZoomX midsole flexible shoe with similar geometry to a Pegasus would be awesome. I've only done one run in it, so I got it yesterday. So I did my warm-up cool down this morning in it. I guess I've read the reviews and stuff. So like it's a little bit polarizing, but there's a lot of people that are a little bit disappointed. I don't know whether it's because of the rose tinted glasses from people's experience with the previous turbo, like the old turbo. I know you boys maybe didn't love it, but a lot of people loved the old turbo, myself included. I just thought it was a nice, simple, moderately cushioned, soft. You could pick up the pace. I could still go relatively long in it. But yeah, it's weird. So they've gone a higher stack. So the analogy for me with this one is a bit like what's happened with the New Balance Rebel. So when the new version 4 Rebel came out, I was like, I'm going to love this because I loved V3. And they added 3 mil of stack, and I'm like, okay, a little bit extra foam. That'll probably might enjoy it even more, having a few extra mil of that foam under there. But it felt less cushioned than V3. This is the Rebel I'm talking about. Yes, and I think it was just because they lowered the geometry of the foam so much that although it was higher stack, it was so compliant that, I know we always talk about it, but that bottoming out effect. So I think what happens is it bottoms out. You get to a defined endpoint of the compression set, and you feel the ground more.
It feels firm.
It goes from soft from that initial loading phase to almost instantly firm. So, and that's a little bit what's happening with this Peg Plus for me, I think. So it kind of feels plush, but as soon as you start running in it, I feel like I maybe get to that bottom point of the foam, and it feels like, to me, it actually feels firmer than the and again, it's so long ago since I wore a turbo, but it actually feels, from memory, it feels firmer than the old turbo, even though that it's significantly higher stack than the old turbo.
I felt the New Balance released a shoe called the Balos. Did I tell you that? Yeah, I mentioned the Balos last time, and that's high stack as well. And I felt like within 10 minutes I was at the ground immediately. So this really, really soft shoe, Celebration of Foam, was feeling firm after 10 minutes. I'm assuming that's what the Peg Plus will feel a bit like, I reckon.
Yeah. So what is it about the first Pegasus Turbo that made it different to this one, or why did everyone love that versus not loving this one?
I was going to say, if people remember from the turbo, it was that dual layer. So the bottom layer was the EVA. I think it was React.
Like the Vomero now, like the Vomero.
Exactly, like the Vomero, and I'll talk about in a second, the new Zoom Fly. So it's that dual layer thing. And I think it works really well. Like Adidas do it in the Boston really well. Saucony do it in the Tempest really well. That getting the softer foam on top and then getting a slightly more durable hydrometer foam underneath. It just works really well.
It does.
So I reckon that's kind of the weird thing is. Even the Streak Fly feels as cushioned as the Peg Plus, which it shouldn't be the case.
I've been seeing that shoe used for high rocks a bit, Julian. Mate, the Peg Plus has been a bit of a high rock shoe. Yeah.
Huh. Because we have High Rocks gym next door to us down here in Torquay, and it's very hard to work out what the right shoe is for High Rocks, because not a lot of people are trying to smash out that 8x1K. It's 8K of work for a lot of people where running isn't a thing that they really do very often. So we would think, 8x1K, you put on a fast shoe for that. You want a light shoe, your aim is to go as quick as possible. But for some people, it's just surviving 8x1K. So we're on a tangent here. I won't go too far down. But so why would people want the Peg Plus as a High Rock shoe?
I don't know. People just wear it because it's light. I guess it's low to the ground, so you can probably lift. I don't know what the outsole is like. I think it grips relatively well, Tom. It's not that bad. So so you can push a sled solid. And things like that. Yeah. I don't know. People just wearing it, mate. Maybe because it looks good. That's what High Rocks is about, isn't it? Shirts off.
It does look good. Yeah. I'm a fan of the bowling stripe.
That actually suits you, that colour. Suits real Sydney preppy boy look.
Thanks, mate. That's what I'm going for.
All right, tell us about a better shoe.
So I haven't run in it yet. I've done a couple of little run throughs out in the front yard. This is the Zoom Fly 6 from Nike. So I was pretty excited to get this one. I haven't actually worn Zoom Fly since V4 maybe. I didn't wear the last version. Did you sell that one, Julian?
Brick. It was a brick.
Yeah. So I haven't weighed this, but yeah, basically what they've done is they've got it's a high stack. So I think it's a 42 rear foot to a 34 forefoot. So it's an 8 mil pitch. It's got a little bit of midfoot concavity, and it's also cut away. So there's a really deep hollow section in the midfoot, and they've got the fly plate, so the carbon plate embedded. Above the fly plate is the Zoom X foam, and beneath is they call it SR2. So it's just like, I'm pretty sure it's just like an EVA blend type of material. So if you feel it, do the old finger press test. This is a slightly firmer durometer beneath the plate, and it's softer on top, being the Zoom X. And it's also it's actually quite flexible. So like that plate is not overly stiff, and I think with the big midfoot cutaway, it allows for more flex, which is interesting. So and for me, I think I like that. I like the fact that it's got like the cutaway there, increasing the flexibility through here. For me, I think I'm going to like. So I actually feel like when I first, obviously I haven't really run in it, but first feel is it feels like a more stable Vaporfly. So if they're trying to get like either a training companion to it or a more stable race day shoe for people, I think they've hit the mark, because this potentially could be a really good race day shoe for people that need a little bit more stability in their shoe. Because to be honest, the Vaporfly, it's a great shoe, but for a lot of people, it's just too unstable for the length of a marathon if they're going to be out there for hours. So I reckon this could be an awesome. It's light. It feels real responsive, but it's stable. It could be a really good race shoe. I'll use it. I'll probably use it for long runs. I might use it for long runs with some pickups. I'm excited to use it because it just feels. First feel is like, whoa, this is a nice feeling shoe. Natural, smooth.
Is it volume upper or is it narrow upper?
The upper's good. So they've kept like a little bit of that boxier toe box. Maybe not quite as boxy as the Vaporfly, but it's a relatively squared off big toe, which I love. So they've done that in like Dragonfly, Alphafly, Vaporfly, and now the Zoom Fly, a little bit more of that. Around here, around big toe, it's not as tapered. Whereas if you look at like Peg Plus, they've gone for the more like tapered,
curved.
So I don't know. It's a shame because I feel it in the Peg Plus, and I felt it in the Vomero, like a little bit more of that tapering, which.
It's nice seeing companies like Nike and Adidas building a bit more anatomical forefoot now as well. Like even the Adistar 3, they pull that insole out, and the Prima, and now the Nikes are doing it as well. They're anatomical. I mean, look, even the Dragonfly itself as a running spike, that's a nice squared off toe box compared to historical spikes, hey?
Yeah, exactly. Even the Peg, has a bit more space in it now. It's brilliant, and the Vomero 17s as well. Like. More people getting into the brand. It should be one of their goals.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So that's it for me. All right.
All right.
No, it's not. I want to hear about the Adios Pro 4.
Oh yeah. Where is he? I got him here. So I didn't talk about this one last time.
You did not.
All right. Yeah. So this is the Adios Pro 4. I don't remember the stack heights, but we had a nice little chat with the guys from Adidas, and so ran through some of the tech changes. So essentially, it took so long to update because they apparently wanted to, didn't want to make change for the sake of making change. So what they have done is they've made it the midsole. So this Light Strike Pro compound, it's just the main difference I reckon is that it's just it's a softer foam. So it's just a lower durometer. It's softer. They do say that they moved like off the research they did in the Evo 1, like they moved the rock, the point of the rocker a little bit further back to like that 60% point anteriorly to the shoe. I mean, it's hard. It does feel smooth. It probably does feel a little bit like the rocker starts a bit earlier. But the main thing is the softness. Like it does feel like for me, it's going to be a better shoe than version 3. I like the softer ride. But then I've also got people that they loved version 3 and they loved that there was actually a super shoe with some guts to it that didn't just compress and wobble around. So some people a lot of people will love the update. Some won't potentially, obviously, like which inevitably happens. But I reckon it's a good update, particularly for faster runners or lighter runners with the softer foam.
Cool.
Good.
It looks good. Nice looking shoe.
Really nice looking shoe. Outsole's updated as well. So the outsole, it almost does feel like a little bit like the outsole. It's a bit more guts to it, but it feels a little bit like the outsole on the Evo 1 as well. So it's like if you just push into the outsole here, it compresses like there isn't an outsole. So it just like it helps with reducing that flappiness feeling when you've got an outsole that isn't like a really high durometer that feels different to the midsole. So I reckon.
Agreed.
So
but if you blind yourself to that shoe and wearing the Evo, look, do you feel like you're moving much easier or much harder compared to the Evo 1?
It's still even though it's a bit lighter than V3, like obviously it's still a fair bit heavier than the Evo 1. In terms of cushion, I still think the Evo 1 feels like it's got plenty of guts to it. So it's not like the Pro to me feels more cushioned. As a top tier racer, like I would still definitely be racing in the Evo 1, but this will be a really nice sort of training shoe. I'll use it for sessions and I've already used it for a few sessions and enjoyed it.
Nice.
Very good.
Cool. Well, while we're on the top of the soup issues, let's address the question, not question, but discussion. So on the previous Road to Valencia episode, Jordan Donnelly, one of the heads of the innovation team at On Running, he suggested that part of the reason that runners are blowing up in marathons is because their legs aren't strong enough due to the overuse of super shoes in training. So he's suggesting a lot of runners should wear non-super shoes for their workouts, their longer workouts and their long runs, that kind of thing, due to toughening up the legs, increasing the pounding on them to provide a benefit for late in the race during marathons. What are your thoughts, firstly, on that? Nitta, I know you loved it. You thought it was the best thing in the world. Tommy's got some alternating opinions on it.
No, look, it depends on so many features. Like you guys, we don't talk about it enough. You guys remember doing a workout for more than an hour in traditional racing flats? And
never did it.
Yeah, that's not exactly. Never did it. And what was the biggest limiting factor? Why couldn't you do it?
Sore calves.
You couldn't do it. And if you couldn't do much for the next 2 to 3 days. So someone like me, I only run I'm running between 90 and 100 Ks a week. And when I ran my marathons, I was running 120 maximum. So my limiting factor is I don't run enough. And to be honest, like my first blocks of marathons, I didn't have all these high stacked shoes. I'd argue if I had most of these shoes, I probably would have been running 140 and 60. So I get to collect all the physiology from the extra time to be able to run in the shoes, which probably helps me run a marathon slightly better. Look, does it help me handle the muscle, mitigate the muscle damage at the end of a marathon? Probably not. But then you've got this ratio of like how much physiology can I get from my running and how much does the ratio of muscle damage at the end of the run play a big role. And look, as you probably get to the finer points at the end of the marathon and you're running faster, there probably is a little bit more muscle tissue damage, but those bodies might be lighter and they might be able to handle more minimalistic shoes. I mean, if you weighed 50 kilos and wore a Zoom Streak, Tom, you probably can get away with it more than, say, if you were 70 kilos wearing a Zoom Streak at the time as well. So there's multiple factors. There's definitely one factor. Did you read the big synthesis? It was like a review paper by a guy called Dr. Jeff Burns. And he talked about all the benefits of super shoes and different reasonings for it, economy benefits, which we all know are well established. But the muscle damage mitigation thing it's been minimally researched. There's been a couple papers saying you wear a super shoe and you don't get quite as much, signs of cellular damage at muscular tissue level, which makes sense. So the benefit is you have to probably train more. And, if you put on a super shoe and you compare it to a traditional shoe, you might need to collect an extra 10, 20, 30 minutes of training in the super shoe, but you probably can. So you probably still get globally enough trauma to be able to handle, the running. You just have to run more. Now, if you put those shoes on and run the same duration, the same distance as traditional shoes, you're probably not preparing the tissues as well, are you? So it's the beauty of them. You can normally run more. When you cross a certain barrier of the marathon and you need to, resist muscle fatigue and trauma, if you've either done more work or you haven't done enough work, it does change tolerance though. Like if you guys aren't wearing traditional running shoes anymore, one, because they're not available, and two, it's you don't run those specific marathon workouts in them. But there's probably a place for it, right? Like I'm still doing fast strides and I'm wearing minimalistic shoes. You mentioned on the main show on Monday, Julian, like if I do 300-meter repeats after a workout, I'll wear if I don't wear a spike, I'll wear the Adidas SL2, for example. Like it's a more traditional shoe, or even the DV8 Nitro Elite 1, which was a lower stack that felt more like a running spike than anything else, because I run better in that shoe for that particular purpose. But I probably couldn't handle it for, an hour workout, for example. I don't have that capacity. So I would choose to pick a shoe that I can handle an hour in. So it's equal and opposite. Depends on you're searching for physiology. The lowest hanging fruit's physiology first, and muscle tissue mitigation, the muscle damage tissue mitigation is probably a lower, it's higher on the, it's not low hanging fruit. Like it is a 1% or 2% probably, maybe a 3 or 4% for a big body. I don't know. What do you think, Tom?
I mean, I don't disagree with any of that. That's I think it's been discussed numerous times by various people about the chronic effect of using these super shoes as opposed to the acute economy benefits that are seen in the studies. So if there is that study on Pegasus versus 4%, and they showed that there was less markers for muscle damage. So if you can essentially, I feel like these shoes are helping us train more, and if you can train more, you're going to get fitter. And as you said, it affects your physiology, which is obviously hugely important. And then, or even just race specifics. If you're going to be racing in these shoes, then why not condition your body to handle running in the same mechanics as you're going to be racing in? So if you're doing a lot of training, there might be some negative to not the specificity that you're going to get from doing some of your or a lot of your long, harder efforts in the race shoes, which historically, as you're saying, you could never do. It's almost like it's being flipped on its head. Which I don't think. And you can also take a tissue stress approach with this. So if I got a runner, if I'm recommending, if there's a runner, say for example, take me for example, my injury history. Again, touch wood. I don't like talking about my injuries, but it's always lower, below the knee. So I get Achilles, calf, midfoot issues, tib post, all that stuff. So for me, I much prefer to be in protection mode a lot of the time, accumulate more training with lower risk of the. So these super shoes reduce ankle work, which essentially reduces calf and Achilles work, which will also reduce work through the midfoot. So I use it as a reducing load as a positive injury reduction strategy for me. Whereas if there's a lot now getting proximal hamstring issues, proximal stress fractures, femoral neck, maybe they're the ones who've got to go take Jordan's approach, where it's using more minimalist shoes, more flexible shoes for their runs to reduce risk of femoral neck stress or sacral stress or proximal.
And that risk reward feature, as you mentioned, it doesn't stop load at the big toe and the ankle and the foot. It just it reduces it. It minimizes it a little bit, for example. It doesn't stop load at all. So, but it probably does increase load somewhere else. And we talk about maybe the shoes, we're blaming hamstring origins and that, but we also the shoes allowing us to do types of trainings that cause those injuries as well. As soon as you start stretching the hamstring because you can stride out a bit longer, striding longer and hitting the ground harder with a higher impulse, and storing and releasing energy. The foam is part of the benefit of wearing the shoe. That's where we get the benefits from. And there's a little bit of risk in that, but part of the risk is the shoes allow us to handle the workload that might give us a proximal loading injury as well. Like long durations of pounding without bending the knee as much makes perfect sense to be able to load a proximal structure. But, you use them for that purpose. And the next day you don't use them for that purpose. The difference is now is the landscape of the shoes, that even the jogging shoes have those attributes in them now as well. And Jordan's super passionate and he's very good at what he does. So I have to call him out. He sort of mentioned that now they're building shoes where they're, non-plated versions with high stack foams to use for the training versions. You'd argue that the stack of the foam is the major reason why we can overstride in the first place. Like you look at the zone, for example, the zone is not going to stop you from getting a proximal stress injury. It's a really soft, high stack foam. You'll be overstriding in that as well.
It's actually quite rigid. I got my samples today and tried to flex it. It's as rigid as some of my carbon plated shoes.
I'm not convinced the carbon plate's the cause of these proximal based injuries. It's the combination of the high stack foam allowing us to be able to have the long stride as well. And there'd probably be almost enough data and enough anecdotes to suggest that as well. So I don't think those shoes designing, like say, the SL Evo and stuff are going to change those things. But we are running out of shoes now. If you want to wear a simple shoe, we are running out of them as options. So,
let's get an Asics Pulse, mate.
Yeah.
Oh, no problem.
So I'm all for the variation of loading, like using surfaces and intensity changes. We've been doing that for centuries on end in running, but shoes allow us to do that a bit better as well. And if you happen to stick to one criteria of shoe, there's probably risk in the same structure loading all the time. But now we're so lucky to be able to, polarize our shoes as we do with our training, that we can probably pinball the load from one part of the body to another enough to be able to not have too many issues. So it's a tricky one. I don't think the benefits of the loss of muscle tissue damage from wearing traditional shoes is needed as much as the physiology from we're seeing amateur runners run better in marathons now and things like that more than ever. So will they be better again if they can handle the trauma of the end of the marathon by wearing traditional shoes? Well, they might wear a traditional shoe, get a calf strain, miss 2 months and be worse. I don't know. Like that's it. It's depending on the athlete, isn't it?
All right. Julian? Good. I would definitely struggle to go back to shoes like that now, just from a pure enjoyment factor. I would struggle to get motivated to go out and do 2 hours solid run in a pair of old lightweight trainers, like an old Kinvara or an old Boston or something. Like that's just not my go. I love putting a shoe on, feeling poppy, excited. Maybe it's the workouts that the running community is tended towards that are giving more of these injuries. And but you also have to look. We are breaking records. There's a higher amount of people under 210. Like runners are getting faster. So although we're trying to address one thing about sort of muscle damage late in a race, the whole population is getting much faster. So maybe maybe it's a made up thing that we're finding a problem out of nothing here.
But that's what happens though. Like eventually you get to a point where like, how do I improve? And you start seeking for a 1%. Oh, maybe we need to go back to Derek Clayton's Asics on Itsuka Tiger. Tolerate that. I mean, it's a bit crazy to be honest. And we're going to get to a point where we actually don't have those shoes accessible. And if we call a 40 millimeter foam, like a plateless shoe, a minimal shoe for training, or then, I saw on Instagram the other day, like, someone having a nostalgic shoe of the Nova Blast 1. That was like almost the first shoe for a high stack foam. It almost changed the era of foam in terms of other brands chasing Hoka. One of the kids brought out, you remember the casual shoe from Nike, the P6000 that's been released? It's a Pegasus 2006. Yeah, the same EVA foam. And look, I put it on the foot and I definitely couldn't tolerate that in jogging for a long period of time. But look, if I expose myself to it, I'd probably be able to do it after a couple of weeks or so. But I don't really want to do that. I'd rather happily run an extra 10 to 15 minutes in a shoe that feels better and get the extra 15 minutes of physiology. And probably, that'll be enough to compensate for the muscle tissue damage as well, the extra 15 minutes, because it doesn't stop load, it just changes it. So,
I actually forgot to talk about the shoe I got. So this will be it, and then we'll go. So I have here the Tarkine Trail Devil 2, which is their performance trail shoe. Now, Tarkine is an Australian company. It's not too old. I think it started from like a GoFundMe or something like that, or like crowdfunding, whatever. But it's actually the first shoe from these guys that I've wanted to get a sample of. I think it's a big improvement. It's a PEBA infused midsole, so it's not full PEBA, but it does have a little bit more like sponge than a traditional EVA foam. It's 39 mil to 33, so 6 mil pitch, but it actually feels lower than that to me. Like I feel like it's more minimal shoe. The one thing I love about it is the anatomical toe box. You can sort of see they're chasing the ultra type design. That's what I compared it to. That fits well. It's slightly too shallow in the toe box for me. So a few of us have found that just through that bit there, you can sort of see there's not a lot of volume. So your toe sits pretty high up in the shoe. It wasn't a problem running, but I feel like over a longer run it would be. You can see the vamp. It's just maybe like not quite the finishing that I would want to see on a shoe. The shoe costs $260. The tongue is really nice. It's one of these stretchy tongues, kind of like the Nimbus in the Nimbus 26. It's stretchy. It's got a little bit of padding there. That's a nice fit. Through the back, no heel slip for me. Really nice fit. It's pretty simple.
Tell us a little bit about Tarkine, mate. Like, no one really. Where are they from? Like, where they? I mean, Tarkine is what, named after the forest in Tasmania, or what?
Yeah, it is. And 1% of the sales of their shoes go back to I think conservation for the forest. I think that's what it is.
Are they from Tassie, the designers?
I don't think so. I thought they were from Canberra. I think fellow I've been dealing with, Sam Burke, I reckon he's got something to do with like Runners Tribe or something along those lines. Runners Tribe, yeah. So they're Australian guys. I reckon they started, let me just have a quick squeeze. Ross Johnson, Sam Burke, they're both the Runners Tribe guys. I love the fact that it's Australian-owned company, and I will do anything in our stores to try to promote that. We just need the product to go with it, and this is probably the first time I've seen something that can compete with a major brand, like in terms of the product.
They've released a shoe that looked a bit like an Ultra Via Olympus as well, like a road version recently. I've seen a bit online. So they have got a couple high stackers that have been released recently. I don't know if they've been released to the public or if they've just been prototypes. I have no idea.
If it's the same type of foam, I'm sort of having a look on their website now. They got some minimal shoes. I think the shoe you're talking about is the Autopilot.
Yeah, it is. Yep.
It kind of looks a bit more like a casual shoe, just the coloring of it. But yeah, this is a shoe that I'm going to wear for 30-minute trail runs around the house, like around my house, because it's perfect for that. I like a minimal shoe for that. I like the fact that it's a lower pitch, a wider fit, good grip. I got the test. I got a really steep path down the side of my house, and going downhill on that is a great test of grip. And this one held up well. So they're like little 3 minute.
Is that the Trail Devil?
Trail Devil 2.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's Tarkine. That's the Trail Devil 2. All right. Who's racing next? What do you got coming up, Nitta?
I got a pro race 2 mile this Sunday.
Oh yeah, Prague. Yep. What are you doing this for? Pro racing.
I'm not going to PB anymore, so it's time to just go back to pros. Either that or high rolls.
Yeah, you got a marathon PB in you, mate. You know you do.
Maybe I'll do Ballarat half next year and see if I enjoy the long stuff again.
All right, Tommy.
Yeah. What about you, Tom?
No, nothing really. I'm gonna be in London next April. So I got rejected from London and from Hamburg. So I'm looking at maybe Rotterdam now.
Okay.
So we'll see.
Rejected.
I just can't get in. Like London's so hard to get in. I can't get the elite field. I can't get. They've tightened up the club entries. You have to be UK resident for good for age. So yeah, that's tricky. And yeah, Hamburg just came back and said no. So I'd have to get I think they're sold out. Yeah. So Rotterdam has like I think have a sub elite program a bit like Valencia does. So I've just emailed about that. We'll see.
Nothing 209 won't fix Tommy.
Oh, geez. Tim Vincent's motivated me. I want that.
How many times you beaten Tim Vincent? How many times you beaten him? How many times you beaten him?
Geez, I don't think I've ever raced him.
Oh, really?
No. I reckon. I would just have to have like my best 6 months of my life, and maybe, just maybe, but yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. All right.
What about you, Julian? What do you got? You gonna run
I'm doing some track running. The track series. So I got a 3K in 2 weeks, and then I got a 5K.
I heard you talking about the Endorphin Elite again. I'm surprised that actually got put into the cupboard so quickly, mate. It is a really good track shoe.
Yeah, I know. I can't wait to pull it. I can't wait to do my next workout in it. I did a threshold on the treadmill yesterday in the Endorphin Pro. My calf pulled up a little funny from it. So I need to go back to the big ones again.
The Elite's better. Yeah, it's a better shoe.
Yeah, it is better. It is better. Yeah.
Good.
All right. Well, enjoy your days. Tommy, your holiday. Both of you blokes not working.
Sure, Matt. I heard about Fiji, so you can't talk.
That's honeymoon destination.